Gabagool. Gabagoo gaga.
Ash and Zach are super smart. They went to college and learned a bunch of stuff. And Beau and Andrew didn't go to college because that's the way life goes sometimes. What happens when you put them together and you try to make them learn? Grab your friends, let's listen together on Get Dumped on an Info Dump podcast.
Welcome to Get Dumped On, an Info Dump podcast. This is a podcast where we sit around, we talk about stuff, we learn stuff, we laugh at stuff. It's generally a good time. I'm Ash. I am joined here, as always, with Andrew and Beau. Can you please say hello to our guests and our listeners?
Hello to our guests and our listeners. My name is Andrew.
Hello, listeners and guests. I'm Andrew.
That was Beau.
And dumping on us today is going to be the other one you heard in the theme song. It's Zach. Get him, Zach.
Hey, it's me. I'm Zach. That's who I am, and I'm here to talk to you today.
Listen to him.
Listen to him go. Listen to
me go. I am going to be dumping today on some cool sites. This is going to be a series that I'm going to be doing when I have run out of time to prepare something else. And
cool
so I'm
sites?
going to be, cool sites, like archaeological sites. Like I'm going to reduce archaeology down to its basest form of just here's a cool place where cool stuff happened. And I'm going to tell you when people lived there, what they did there, and what they built. What did they build so they could do that stuff / how do we know what they did there?
All right, I'm done.
So I'm going to be talking about sites in the Andes of South America, which is the area that I'm most familiar with. So I wrote a lot of this from memory and looking at some of the gigabytes and gigabytes of articles that are on my computer.
So the Andes is famously known as a group of dudes named Andy.
Yes.
Is that insider info that you're giving us right now?
Yeah, that's so in history. It happened in the late 17th century. Just a gaggle of Andes happened upon each other, and then then that's what it is.
Yes. But in reality, or rather in this context, the Andes are... In this context, the Andes are the longest mountain range in the world. They are in South America and about 9,000 kilometers long, or 5,500 miles, 125 to 435 miles wide, and at an average height of about 1,300 feet. So this extends from South America through Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. The Andean cultural region is kind of more specifically referred to as like the Central Andean region, but we'll just call it the Andean region. But it's essentially the group of people living in the space from the western slope of the Andes down to the coast of Peru.
Once again, they're all named Andy.
They're all named Andy.
And that's why they call it the Andes. I was going to get to that, but you interrupted me.
It's a really small sliver, well, relatively small, right, from the Andes to the coast?
Pretty much, yeah. And it's a really densely populated or just like densely interesting cultural area. It's one of the like cradles of civilization where like it's said that like civilization originated independently, sort of like the Mesopotamia of South America.
Oh.
And
if anybody out there,
interesting history.
Sorry, if anybody out there needs reference, because you said that the Andes were 5,500 miles long.
Yeah.
The United States is only like 2,800 miles long. So that's really long.
Mm-hmm. A very long mountain range.
So for the dumb people in this podcast, aka me and Beau, what would you like explain the Andes to a 5-year-old?
Really long mountain range.
Yeah, it's a very long mountain range, very high up.
Can you do it in baby speak?
The Andes are a very, very long mountain range. They go from Ecuador all the way down to Chile, and they're very, very high.
Now do the whole.
Great.
Now do the
I
whole.
learned a lot.
Do the whole podcast like that, please.
No.
You want to listen to that, Beau?
I
want
do.
you to say that you want to hear Zach listen to the baby voice for an hour.
We'll do a director's cut.
I want to listen to Zach do
director's cut
baby voice
version
for an hour.
It'll be like like when they release DVDs, they always have that director's cut thing. So we'll do a director's cut version of this where Zach does every single podcast in baby speak.
Every podcast. Oh my God.
Everyone.
Here's the problem is that I don't want to do that.
I don't want to
do that.
Dance, monkey, dance. Entertain
Baby
us.
no likey.
So the eastern slopes of the Andes go pretty much are where the Amazon jungle starts, which then goes through the eastern half of Peru, through Brazil to the Atlantic coast. And that's like the Amazonian cultural area, whereas the Andean cultural region is the western slope of the Andes down to the Pacific coast, which is largely deserts instead of like jungles. So you've got like this really kind of stark contrast in environments between the jungle on the eastern half and the deserts on the western half.
In the jungle, the Andes jungle.
The jaguar sleeps tonight.
It's also desert at some point.
The portion of the Amazon that's in the Andes is called the Ceja de Selva, which is the eyebrow, because there's this like the clouds. Basically the Andes are so high that on the eastern half, the clouds that are created by the humidity in the jungle kind of create this extra band of vegetation that's like partway up the mountains. And so you've got this vegetation where the jungle is, then you've got this break where there's no vegetation, and then you've got a bunch more vegetation again because of the humidity from the clouds above the jungle. And I think that's kind of cool.
That's pretty
Dude,
cool.
how many mosquitoes are on that goddamn mountain?
So many. And what's great about doing archaeology in some of the spots where I have done it is that I've worked above the tree line, which also means working above the insect line. And
Hey.
so I was working
There's an
at a
insect
spot.
line?
Yeah, there's basically like one of the sites that I was digging at was at like 12 to 13,000 feet above sea level, and there was no bugs. There were basically like no
I'm
mosquitoes.
moving there fucking now because I'm being eaten alive this summer.
It was pretty sweet. I would not recommend it just because of the thinness of the air made it hard to breathe sometimes.
You probably
And
get
I
used
got
to
a lot
that
of headaches.
after a while.
Or
Yeah.
it would make you like that's what professional athletes do is they go to high altitude
Yeah.
places to train. So it would make you a better, more evolved human.
Yeah, pretty
Therefore,
much.
better than everyone else.
That's what I'm hearing.
Dude, when I
When you
I came back from some of these
that
field
bugs-
seasons, I was so fucking beef.
the bugs are
and
going to be
then I-
running.
Yeah.
You'd be like, come here, bug, and you just gotta punch him in the face. I'll punch a mosquito.
The first site that I wanted to talk about, so I'm going to talk about 3 sites, which I wrote about. There's Chavin de Huantar, there's Huacas de Moche, and then I'm going to talk about Machu Picchu.
2 of those sound like drinks that you would get at like at like a tiki bar.
They all kind of do. I mean, you could just say anything in like South American language, and you're like, oh, yeah.
And they're like, oh,
That's
yeah,
a
here's a
tiki drink.
pineapple. There you
Mhm.
go.
We could talk about like the beginnings of people in South America, but that's like a whole situation and debate. And it's
What, like if
the
they
people
exist or something?
well, no,
No,
just
the
like
timeline
how
is hotly debated.
the,
in
the
the
timeline
process.
of when people first entered South America and like started sort of society there. And right now there's a lot of really interesting stuff that's kind of rethinking how the Americas were populated in the first place. That is probably would be an entire episode on its own. So I'm not really going to touch on it that much. So instead we're going to fast
Beau will touch on it later on. We'll get Beau's final thoughts on that later.
Yeah.
I'll touch it. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So we're just going to skip forward to 1200 BC, which
You mean
is called...
BCE? You shamed me for
Yeah.
that once.
I know. I'm sorry. That was my bad.
No, that's
Ah.
that's payback.
So you're a hypocrite.
Thank you for correcting me.
That's karma.
Yeah. So Zach,
I'm not a hypocrite. I just make
everyone,
mistakes.
Zach is a hypocrite,
Everyone makes mistakes.
but everyone's not a hypocrite like you are.
Yeah.
Especially mosquitoes.
Mhm.
I hate, God, I hate
Like
mosquitoes.
fucking mosquitoes, man.
Yeah.
All right,
Just
take
swing
it.
away.
What do you got, Zach? What do you got for us?
So 1200 BCE, which in Andean, like the sort of like history of the Andes is referred to as the early horizon period. So basically the history of Andean cultures are broken up into this like system of horizons and intermediates. And there's the early horizon, there's the early intermediate, then there's the middle horizon, then the late intermediate, and then the late horizon. And so basically during each horizon period, there's some sort of like grand cultural complex that's kind of expressing a lot of influence over a large portion of the area. Then during the intermediates, then that basically that culture kind of collapses for whatever reason or loses its influence. And then the intermediate is when there's a lot of like separate polities and groups just kind of doing their own thing. And then another big group will come into power and take over a bunch of places, and then there's going to be another horizon, and then there's an intermediate, and then et cetera, et cetera.
So don't forget about also the Vertical Horizon, which was a band from the 90s. That was
they
from
have
the
everything
Andes.
you want.
Everything you need.
And everything you need.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
everything inside of you that you think you should be.
That's God, I'm going to listen to that now. That's a great fucking album. All right, keep going.
So the early horizon is characterized by this cultural group called the Chavin group. And it's one of the first really like influential culture groups in the Andes, which is why it is what kind of signifies the early horizon. And we see their art style and artifacts radiating out from this site called Chavin de Huantar, then down to the Pacific coast and up and down the coast that way. And so Chavin de Huantar is in the mountains, kind of right at the middle of the mountains, 160 to 200 miles north of Lima, what is now Lima. And so it's kind of like right sort of in the middle of Peru. Look it up on a map. I don't know how to describe it without just saying look it up on a map. You're smart, you can figure it out.
I'm looking up maps right now.
It's probably like the first state in the Andes, the first thing that you could define as a state. At this point, people had been living in agro-pastoral communities for a couple of thousand years, mostly smaller villages and communities with a reasonable amount of movement. They didn't like stay in one place. They had, a town where they lived, but they would be moving between towns temporarily and up and down the mountains, especially among people in the highlands. So the Andes Mountains are a pretty steep peak. And so people had to adapt to a very vertical lifestyle because you've got a lot of agricultural zones depending on the altitudes, and they're all very vertically oriented and kind of small.
Wait, this thing runs from literally the top all the way to the bottom?
What, the Andes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're long as shit, dude. That's what we were talking about.
Miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was like straight up the top to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a map right now. Hey, yo, maps are cool.
Maps are really cool.
You told me to look up a map, and now I can see them. Hey, everyone, if you're listening to this, especially if you're driving, look up a map. It's great.
Yeah.
Everyone, while you're driving, take out your phone, Google Map right quick.
No. Pull out the Thomas guides that your dad left in the back of your trunk when you were like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be going somewhere. And he's like, he gave you a present. And you're like, you didn't know that Google Maps existed yet. So there's a map in the back of some people's car right now. Pull those out and look at the Andes.
Good on you for keeping that map and like in front and for your father's memory. Like the fact that you still had a lot of that map.
It could come in handy. You never know. Like you could be in a place where there's no GPS signal in the Andes Mountains and you'd be like, oh, crap, I can drive out of here.
Then you go.
Maybe not. It's too steep.
Good thing I have this map of Arizona.
Grand Canyon, Andes.
The roads definitely haven't changed since 1986.
Yeah. So the concept of the vertical archipelago is basically the altitude divides the living space into these sort of arable zones where you can grow different things. And so people would constantly be moving between these different, basically like livable zones along the slopes. So like the lowest zones, you could grow corn. The next highest zone up, you could grow potatoes and quinoa. Then the next highest zone is where like llamas and alpacas and vicuñas and guanacos were native to. And so that's where they would do most of their, like, they would put them out to pasture, and like that's where they would like breed them and like do all of that sort of stuff. And then the highest zones are where tobacco and coca leaf would grow. And so like the pastoralists would have these just massive trains of llamas that they would essentially go up and down the mountains, and they would like, go here, work on your potatoes and quinoa, harvest what's available and plant what's left.
It's pronounced quinoa. Thank you very much. If you could use the correct one.
Okay. Then like go up and let your llamas eat for a while and like restore their strength, and then go. And it would take a couple of weeks, but like this was just kind of and that's how goods would get from the highlands to the coast and back up. And so people on the coast had to rely on this a little bit less because they could take advantage of seafood for most of the calories that they needed.
The sea.
There's this current that goes along the Pacific Ocean called the Humboldt Current. There's a lot of stuff in South America named after Alexander Humboldt. We can get into that in a whole nother episode. But effectively, the Humboldt Current brings nutrient-rich, colder waters from the deeper ocean up to the surface. And so it brings a lot of plankton and stuff up to the surface, which leads to a really high density of fish and other things that then eat the fish. So there's a lot of sea life along the Pacific coast of South America because of this Humboldt current.
It's why the Pacific Ocean is colder than the Atlantic Ocean. And it's why California gets such rich sea life.
Yeah, exactly. It goes up
everywhere,
through,
all up and down.
Yo, I'm looking at pictures of this mountain. You are right. This is a steep ass motherfucker. Holy shit.
Yeah, steep ass mountains, dog.
It is fucking like straight up.
So the earliest city in Peru is a city called Corral, which was on the coast. But I don't know as much about it off the top of my head as I did about Chavin, so I'm not going to talk about it now. But they would trade seafood and guano, which is a really good fertilizer. But
That's bat poop.
But guano also refers to seagull poop. And so there are these like islands out off the coast where the seagulls would congregate, and people would go out in boats and just like scrape up seagull poop and use it for fertilizer. And so they would trade that to the people from the highlands and then get potatoes.
So
quinoa,
wait, is guano just a term for poop?
It's specific. It can refer to bat poop and seabird poop, from what I know.
Only
Really?
seabirds, not regular bird poop?
Oh, yeah, look at that. Guano is, according to the Dictionary of Oxford Languages, the excrement of seabirds and bats.
So flying poop, really.
Just those two things.
It's flying poop.
Well,
That's what it is.
Well, flying poop,
But not
poop
like
only over
parrots
the
or other
ocean.
kinds of birds.
Flying poop only over the ocean and bats.
Why was it those?
I'm
that's
calling
such
it flying poop
wet-
from now on.
That's weird. Someone's like, this is guano, but that's guano, but nothing else is guano. It's only the ones over the sea and the ones in these caves.
Over the sea.
I think it's something about the nitrogen content that makes it guano. And the seabirds and bats just have more nitrogen in their poop.
See, okay,
I'm
you
not
keep coming
really
at me
sure.
with logic right now, and I don't like it.
So by this point, by 1200 BC, the main staple crops of the area had all been cultivated. Hey, Ash, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Do you know what that was?
Nope.
I think Barnaby got into something. There was just a weird noise coming from
I'm
somewhere
not
else
cutting
in the house.
any of this.
Classic Barn.
We talked about Barn in the last episode, getting into mischief, and you guys are like, no, he's not a mischievous
troublemaker.
guy.
Oh, no, he's a good
He's so
cat.
sweet.
He's a good boy,
He's
from
a
what
good
I hear. Like,
boy.
I'm gonna
He is.
copy. I'm gonna copy and paste when you guys are talking about being a good boy between this.
Pretty sure.
He is a good boy.
Pretty sure he tried to escape last episode.
I'm
He
pretty
did-
sure
he
he's
didn't.
he's fighting some. He's started a fight club.
Oh
right
yeah,
now,
a cat fight
wherever
club.
you are.
Yeah, watch
Yeah.
out.
I mean,
Barnaby might be near
the
you.
cats do fight. I mean, not like for real,
Well-
but like they play fight.
It doesn't sound like anything too dangerous happened, so I think it'll be okay. I'll check it when we're done. Hey everyone, Zach here. I just wanted to say that at this point, this is the point where we accuse Barnaby of making a noise in the house and knocking something over. But actually, I investigated now after we finished recording, and it turns out that Barnaby was fine. He didn't do anything bad because he's perfect. And actually, it was my fault because I did not correctly affix the shower mirror to the wall, and the suction cup went loose, and it fell. So it was not Barnaby. He is still perfect. Now back to the episode.
Hey everyone, but I'm here with a quick public service announcement. Just here to let you guys know that Barnaby is a criminal, and I'm calling the police on him right now.
So by this point, all the staple crops had been domesticated. Corn, quinoa, and potatoes are the main crops in the region, and they all showed up between 6,000 and 3,000 BCE. Potatoes were domesticated first locally. Corn was probably traded down from Mexico, maize, and quinoa was last, but not by much.
Wait, weren't you talking about something 1200 or 2000 BCE?
Well, yeah, I'm just talking about how everything had already been domesticated by this point. I'm just giving you a little bit of context, just a little crumb of context. This is all subject to change with new info, of course. But one of my favorite theories that I've read is that quinoa was originally cultivated because of llama poop. Quinoa kind of naturally grows scattered throughout these like fertile valleys in the Andes. And so a fun fact about llamas is that a herd of llamas will all poop in the same pile. They'll all like share a little poop pile.
Nice.
So we do in my house.
That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of
really,
what
that is
if
what
you
we
live
do.
Knowledge pile.
in a one bathroom house, you're all pooping in the same spot.
We have a place where you're supposed to poop, and if you don't poop there, it's a problem.
Yeah. But what's unique about it is that the entire herd will poop in the same pile.
Yes, that's what we do. We don't flush in this house. Gotta conserve water. We just pile it up until it hits the seat.
You know what they say? When it's yellow, let it mellow. When it's brown, don't flush it down.
Make a pile.
If it's
When
brown,
it's brown, make a pile, huddle in a circle, and eat quinoa.
This had the advantage of basically concentrating an entire
Sorry,
valley's
that's
worth
also
of quinoa
when you poop in a
seeds.
pile with people. It's called guano. I just read that. Okay, I made that up.
This had the side effect of basically concentrating an entire valley's worth of all the quinoa will be in one pile, so it makes it easier to get all the quinoa seeds from one valley. Yeah, or it'll start sprouting if you let it long enough.
Okay,
and then you can just get the seeds off the sprouts.
I ate quinoa for dinner last night, and you're making me very uncomfortable.
It's delicious.
Sorry,
poop is fertilizer. Like, you just have to deal with that fact of life as a person who eats food.
Moving on back to Chavindewantar. We've got when did people live there, but now what did they do there? And the answer is lots of drugs.
What? Nice.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Good for them.
Chavindewantar was located in the middle of a valley in the mountains near an important confluence of rivers, the Mosnan-Wancheka rivers. And it was at an important location where you couldn't really travel east-west or west-east without going past it. So it was easy to kind of funnel people into this area. And it was an important stop for people traveling from, one direction to another. And it eventually became an important pilgrimage destination. And so it's theorized that this is how Chavin became so important, was because people were always walking, like having to travel past it. They would bring goods that they got there to other places and tell people about what they saw there, or, the drugs that they did there.
What drugs did they do?
We'll get into that in a second. So the valley is warm. The valley is warm. It traps heat and nutrients in soil, so it's a really good farming land. It's a really good spot to set up shop in the mountains because you can grow quinoa and potatoes and herd your llamas there. And so a lot of people are going to be going there naturally. And then you've got psychedelic experiences, the opportunity to talk to an oracle, and you can see how people were attracted to the spot.
I want to talk to an oracle.
What do you think that the method for the drugs and oracle was, if you want to speculate wildly?
So you said psychedelics, so like maybe mushrooms or licking frogs or something?
Eating poop.
Eating quinoa.
Snorting
This is a real
stuff.
good quinoa. That's how good the quinoa was there. You eat it and you're like, whoa.
It was hallucinogenic cactus. So San Pedro cactus. They would snort the cactus, basically.
They would snort cactus?
Yeah.
Needles and all, baby.
Get it all.
They'd grind it up and dry it and then do it like.
How
make yourself a little cactus powder.
Mm-hmm.
Go to town.
Well, probably what happened was somebody ate the cactus fruit or something like that, or the meat of the cactus. And then they were like, this is sick. How can we make it stronger? And then they experimented for a little while until they figured out the snuff method.
Dude, okay, think about this. People say, why would you ever want to go back in time? There wasn't Netflix or anything. Yeah, true. Good point, guy.
You just say, I want to huff cactus straight to the dome piece and trip out.
Yeah. If you're born in this town, hell yeah. That's the only thing you're going to be doing for your entire life is just huffing hallucinogenic cactus.
Andrew, you might have an addictive personality.
I just want to try new things. And that sounds like a fun thing to try.
That's always my explanation for when people are talking about, like really nice architecture or really well carved things, and people are always like, we can't figure, how could they have done this with the tools they had back then? It must have been aliens.
They were fucking obliterated, bro.
But it's like they didn't have Netflix or books or like TV or anything else to do. So if you were like a mason, you just did masonry. You got your 10,000 hours in by the time you were 14.
Yeah, and you're really good at it.
You're really, really good at it.
And you're riding the green cactus the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
So Chavindewantar has two connected temples, which are very creatively referred to as the Old Temple and the New Temple.
Lazy
There's a black and white gateway. Yeah, there's a black and white gateway, which is a gateway made of...
There's an old one and a new one.
Yeah. Wait until you hear about why the black and white gateway is called the black and white gateway.
Let me guess.
Is it red?
Because one stone is made of black limestone and the other stone is made of white granite. And they have carvings on them. The white granite is carved with the male version of an avian deity, and the black one is carved with the female version of the same avian deity. So there's this sort of dualism thing going on.
They couldn't change the name based on the deities? They're like the black one and the white one, not that fucking awesome avian deity.
Yeah, they look like harpy eagles, I think it is.
What?
And
that's so cool.
One of them's got a dong and the other one's got a...
The gate of the harpies. That sounds so fucking... Like, are you serious?
That is
black
cool.
That's pretty tight.
I'm upset
Okay,
now.
we're changing it. Its new name is the Gate of the Harpies. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
The fuck, what's that called? Like,
what deities are they?
What's a
Zach?
cooler word for gate? Like,
well, so these
realm,
the portal.
Portal, harpy portal harpies.
Yeah, the harpy portal. There's Chavin is basically so long ago that all of these carvings are very enigmatic. We don't really know. It's all speculation what deities they were or what they represent.
They were on hallucinogenics. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
It's very related to remember when in the Vikings episode Justin was talking about kennings?
Yeah, kennings.
And basically like these like metaphors that they would use. That is studying these is how I first heard about kennings, is because there's visual kennings in the artwork.
Sleep of the sword or whatever he was talking about.
Yeah. The Seal's Field and
Shout
stuff like
Justin.
that.
What's up, buddy?
There's basically these visual metaphors.
Fuck Justin.
In the
Damn.
Where it's like teeth representing cactus needles and
cactus.
Multiple heads representing various things. I don't remember exactly the specifics. There's like these sort of visual allegories that people are still trying to figure out exactly what they mean.
Yeah, some if I know anything about people on drugs, just you can't. There's no way.
Right?
You just sometimes shit's just fucking cool, and then you just leave it at that.
We could call it the portal through the unknowable divine.
Oh shit, that's cool as fuck.
/ Harpy Gate.
I trademarked it.
Yeah. So then there's also these circular sunken plazas, the biggest of which would probably hold about 100 people. Then there are, when it was first discovered by like researchers, it had these heads, these carved stone heads kind of littered around, and they have these like posts that stick out the back that correlate with these holes in the walls of the temples. So they were basically meant to be put into these holes and kind of like project out from the walls. And they're pretty big. I'd say they're probably about like 2 feet tall. And if you put them in order,
tall.
Yeah, they're really big. I've got a replica one on my desk that's much smaller. It's like 3 or 4 inches.
Wait, you put them in order that you stick them inside of it, like what you said with the pole?
So basically, there's like a series of holes in the walls, and you can stick the pole into the wall, and if you put them in order, it will show a human figure who then gets a runny nose and then turns into a jaguar.
Okay, I think that you're lying to me because everything that you've explained so far sounds like it was on Legends of the Hidden Temple in Nickelodeon.
Oh, what a great
Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
What a great show.
Together with the stick.
So it was.
Where do you think they got the inspiration, bro?
So the Mayans or whoever these people were got the inspiration from Nickelodeon. How? That's so cool.
Chavin and people.
Chavin.
So it's essentially that they were doing these shamanistic rituals there, where the shaman would hallucinate that they were a jaguar or something like that. Other sort of animal.
So yeah, you're
part
a
of this
human.
Whole religious ritual.
You're a human. You snuff a little bit of cactus, get a runny nose or a bloody nose, and then you are a jaguar, man.
Then you turn into a jaguar. Yeah, the tale as old as time.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting because I read a paper a while ago talking about shamanism and like prehistory, and they used kind of that same similar thinking that people would wear these headdresses and capes that had like deer antlers and like deer pelts, and they think that they would do drugs, hallucinate, and then like the shaman would dance and they would turn into the animal that they were wearing.
That's pretty cool.
So that's all pretty cool. And then there's a bunch of other carvings, like these like stone slabs that have carvings of people like holding cactuses and running around holding cactuses and doing all sorts of stuff like that. So
that's dangerous. Don't run while holding a cactus.
Yeah, that's the old school version of running.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm gonna do it anyway.
So the pilgrims would come to the site. They'd get fucked up in the sunken circular plaza, and then they'd go into the old temple to go visit the local deity, or basically the old temple has a series of stone passageways in it that are effectively a maze or a labyrinth. And at the middle of the passageways is this gigantic carved idol, like this 15-foot tall stone idol that has like a deity carved into it. So essentially imagine that you get fucked up in this big ritual. You go into a temple and you're in a very dark passageway. There's pretty much no light, and it's lined with canals. The canals would redirect rainwater, and they've done tests that basically show that when the water is flowing through the canals, it's amplified. The sound is amplified. And it gets super loud and disorienting when you're in there, just being dark with the amplified sound of the rushing water. And I was reading a study from one guy who's doing like an experimental thing where he basically just got fucked up and shut off the lights in his bathroom and ran the shower. And he was like, after a while, it was pretty nuts.
I love experimental archaeology.
And then there was vents in the tunnels where they would let through smoke. So you're in these dark tunnels. It's super loud. There's smoke. You can barely see anything. So you're fucked up and overwhelmed by sound and smoke. And then you finally make it to the chamber where the oracle is. And so it's this 15-foot carved stone. It's shaped like a wedge. It's called the Lanzone, and it has another cool animal hybrid deity on it that we don't really fully understand. It's got elements of like a caiman. It's got elements of like a jaguar. It's got these cool fangs. So I've read some people who suggest that it could be one of the South American bears. Is that the spectacled bear?
Yeah.
The chamber that it was in had an opening in the ceiling that would illuminate the face and potentially allow priests to speak through it, like in the voice of the deity.
That's so
like, you'd really
fucking cool.
Yeah. So,
but that's like, what? They're tricking people?
Yeah,
no,
or
it's all part of the religious experience, man.
Yeah, it's part of the religious experience.
He's speaking through though, like he's just like he knows it's not.
Well, he's divine.
He's
divine. He's divine. He's a priest. He's closer to God than any of us mere mortals.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go.
You're just jealous.
And do the drugs, and then God will talk to us.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that's
jealous.
missing, I think, from me getting really into religion is the mass drug use beforehand.
Dude, right? Like if they were all about it, then they would have so many more followers and be way more popular.
Yeah. And then I found out that last year, the researchers who were there found even more tunnels underneath the old temple that predate its construction.
Oh, so a hidden temple.
So yeah, even a hidden temple.
I'm sure there's a legend about it.
Oh, whoa.
Nickelodeon.
And so as far as I can tell, they're still trying to figure out what those are about. But there's like 22 more tunnels that need to be mapped now.
I'll figure it out. Send me there.
Oh yeah, you got it?
Yeah, cool.
So I visited this site like 10 years ago, and it was amazing. And I got to talk to the people working there. And they let me poke my head into one of the galleries that they had just uncovered. It was really a phenomenal experience.
Hey, Zach.
What?
Hey, Zach.
What?
Did you try it?
No, I did not. There was no San Pedro available for me.
You didn't try the cactus?
I didn't try the cactus.
I didn't really get.
Were you scared?
I only got a partial experience. No, I didn't have any, and I was with my mom. Hi, Mom.
I bet she probably bogarted it all.
Zach's mom, Zach's mom, like she went out after hours, and she's like, "Give me that cactus." Like my dumb kid's with me. I can't do the cactus in front of him.
I told my idiot son that I was out of cactus. All for me.
I did accidentally scare a child while I was there, though. I was walking around the town, and they just like turned around and saw me. And I didn't really do anything, but I think they had never seen somebody as tall as me before.
Were you making baby noises?
And it was just, I just saw a look of terror on their face.
He said, "I won't hurt you. I'm just a little baby." And they're like, "Oh God!"
They're like, "Jesus, a giant baby, run!"
So there's no real like collapse of this site. Like we can't date like it's less of a collapse and more of a gradual abandonment. And but that Chavin as like a cultural complex or like an institution started losing its influence around 200 BCE, so about 1,000 years later, and the site was abandoned for quite some time. Eventually people would come back and re-inhabit it, but they probably didn't use it in the same way, and you can see that like they took some of the blocks and like used them to build new structures, and so the archaeologists have had to figure out which stones came from which parts to recreate how it looked at its peak. Then in like the 1800s, there was a war between Peru and Bolivia, and people were like stationed there, and like there's also like dead people from then buried on the grounds too, so that's fun. And yeah, I mean it's not really that fun, but I think that war is the reason why Bolivia's navy Bolivia has a navy, but they don't have any access to the ocean, and so there's just like naval ships in Lake Titicaca.
Beau.
What?
That's
where is this place? Can you say it again in a baby voice?
Lake Titicaca.
Oh God.
I hate this baby voice thing that you're making me do. The next sites that I want to talk about are Huaca del Sol
boats
and
in my
Huaca de la Luna.
Sorry.
Huaca del Sol and Huaca de la Luna. And so Waka is a term that you see a lot when you're studying the ancient Andes, and so
Waka
it's
waka.
Waka waka. In Spanish, the spelling is Huaca, and Quechua the spelling is usually Waka. It's just different spellings. It's still the same word, but essentially a waka is like a religious object. It could be a temple is a waka. It could be a sacred stone is a waka. They're basically
I'm a waka
like even
here.
an important an important religious object could be a waka. It's basically anything that holds religious power.
Yeah,
and
well,
it's
that's
kind
why
of
in
like,
New York, if you piss off a New Yorker, that's religious to them is walking, and it's like I'm walking here, like it's a waka, you know. That's very important.
That's why they yell at you. That's why they have to let you know.
That's why they yell at you.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm a waka in here.
Hey, I'm walking here.
Hey. Oh yeah. Also the A part too.
Hey, gabagool.
Gabagool. Waka.
gabagool.
Can you say gabagool in baby voice?
Gabagool.
Ooh.
Gabagoo gaga.
Why was that so funny? Oh man.
So
Gabagoo gaga. Hell yeah.
Gabagoo gaga. And ultimately, waka is a very loaded term. It has a lot of cultural meaning that I'm
What kind of term?
kind of like
Oh god.
loaded.
Just
No.
Oh god, no.
Why did you answer that question?
No. I'm doing a disservice with the way I'm describing it, but for sure it has a lot of meanings and it means a lot to a lot of people. But anyway, the important thing is that in this case, it refers to them as monuments. They're a pair of really big pyramids. So they call them the Huacas de Moche as a more, kind of inclusive term of the two of them. And individually, they're Huaca del Sol, Huaca of the sun, and Huaca de la Luna of the moon. So it's kind of going back to this sort of like, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Bi-dimensional duality. That's the word. That is a common thing that shows up a lot in Andean cultural contexts, is this sort of duality. Everything has two sides.
The sun and the moon, the man and the woman.
The sun and the moon, the man and the woman, the black and the white.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of like objects that are like split gold and silver, things like that.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's very cool. So these are from the early intermediate period. So this is kind of like the next period. These are made by a group called the Moche, and they were pretty much around from I'm going to get some flack for these dates because the dates of the Moche are very argued over, but basically 100 to 800 CE. These are pretty much right on the coast of Peru. You can see the water from the top of them near a modern day town called Trujillo. So they were built by the Moche. The Moche were very complex politically, to the point where archaeologists have been studying them for 150 years and still argue over which cities were affiliated with which other cities and how their politics works. But what the general consensus is, I know we can argue, is that they were city-states with lots and lots of people. They were very densely populated, and they were localized to a series of river valleys on the northern coast of Peru. And so this is an intermediate period because while there's a lot of people, they didn't really expand past that area. They interacted with people on the southern coast. There's artistic interchange with like the Nazca, who you maybe know from the Nazca lines, but they didn't like expand much to the highlands. But they were super crafty, and to the point where they definitely had some sort of like state sanctioned crafter class or job. Because what you see a lot is mass production and standardization of goods and standardized iconography. And so there's a lot of like sculptural vessels in like the shape of things that are very clearly made with molds. You have representational art. The art's a lot more straightforward than Chavin. There's not as much abstraction, but at the same time, there's a lot of really complex like religious iconography that we still really just can't interpret. We just know that like, oh, hey, this looks weird. It's probably a god. They made portraits of people in these like three-dimensional portrait vessels, which I've heard some people say are like the only true form of portraiture in the New World, because usually they're portraits are very stylized, or they're like relegated to one field of view. But these portraits are so accurate that there are certain individuals who we can trace throughout their entire lives. There's one guy who has a scar on his lip that makes him very easy to identify, and you can trace his entire life through these portrait vessels, from him as like a 12-year-old boy to like as a full-grown adult and then elderly.
Wow.
Which is pretty
That's crazy.
cool.
So it's like a graphic novel.
Yeah. And then they also made lots of cute animals and plants and stuff in their art. And so I'm going to ask each of you to describe. I'm going to send you I'm going to send a picture of a pot, and then I would like you to describe what it is that you're seeing. Andrew, I'll have you go first. What is this?
Oh,
There's a frog pot.
it's so cute.
It's pot, but it's also a frog. It's frog pot.
Mm-hmm.
Then the frog has got spots. It's a frog pot with spots.
It's spotty frog pot. Spotty frog pot.
Spotty frog pot.
Looks like he's sitting on a rock or something. Really cute.
It's spotty rock frog pot.
Well, so it's a very realistic looking frog sitting on a pot. He's got big eyes. He's really cute. And
so the frog is a part of the pot. It's a spotty rock frog pot within the pot. So like the pot, it goes through him. Mm-hmm. So as if to be part of him.
So it's cute and it's also usable.
Yeah.
Now this one's for Ash. Ash, tell me what you see here.
Spotty rock frog pot.
Oh my goodness. It is a crab with a human head wearing a little hat, and it looks like some jewelry. Maybe
the
a
hat looks like it's a
ring.
leaf.
Yeah, the hat kind of looks like a leaf, and then it's sitting on like a square base. And the crab is incredibly detailed, and it also has spots. And there's some.
It looks like he's sitting on a block of tofu.
Yeah, I see some etching in the brim of the hat, as well as painting on the back of the crab and on the man.
Yeah, and
I would call this spotted fashionable tofu crab man.
Yeah, it's Animorph style, or it's just a crab body with a dude's head.
Now, Beau, I'm gonna DM this one to you.
Okay. Oh, I got a message. Hold on. Oh God.
I wonder who it's from.
Hold on. God damn! Why do I get this one? So it's obviously.
Hey, Beau, could you explain that in full detail?
I would like to know.
So there's a spooky looking rock that looks like it has faces, and on top of it, it looks like there's a pillow. And then what's on top of the pillow is a lady being bent over while a skeleton man looks like he's dropping loads on her.
Interesting.
Beau.
So this is.
So, Beau, that's disgusting. How could you say this?
Also known as Normal Tuesday Night Pot.
So, if you want to go ahead and please, it looks like a fancy cup though at the end. But go ahead and please share.
Fancy cup.
Go ahead and show them what I have to see.
This is a lady getting bent over and railed by a skeleton.
Yeah, yes it is.
Yeah,
indeed it is.
So what did I say was wrong?
It kind of looks like it's a chocolate chip cookie ball she's laying on too.
So the fun thing about the moche is that they have all of these really cool representational pots, and then they also have just massive, incredible amounts of sex pots, just showing people doing sexual acts with each other, with themselves, and a weird amount of the time with skeletons. Something that if you get another look at this, you'll see that if you look at this from another angle, I will guarantee you
look at that skeleton six pack right now.
I think those are his ribs.
Oh,
I can guarantee you that if you look at this from another angle, you'd be able to tell that the skeleton is having sex with her butt, because skeletons are never shown engaging in reproductive sex. Oh, they're only ever getting jerked off, blown, or doing butt stuff.
Yeah, because he's got a boner.
Okay, so where does it end though?
So Beau, you were wrong, because he's not dropping loads because he doesn't do reproductive stuff.
I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
he's dropping
just,
dust.
It's just dust in there.
He's going. He's just making that noise.
But for a couple more conventional ones.
That guy's got a dong for a hand.
Oh, his dong.
He's holding his dong in his hand.
And his dong is. Oh, it's fellatio. Got it.
Yeah.
But okay, skeletons don't have.
This guy's not a skeleton. This guy's not a skeleton though.
Well, this guy's not a skeleton.
He just has a fucked up eyebrows, or he looks like he got swollen face. That's what he is.
That's her stepdad. Is that what you're saying? Your stepbro.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is. Oh, see, I can tell. It looks like it's going lower. This one.
Okay. Well, so the
Zach.
You're posting a lot of photos.
Stop showing us sex spots. He's showing
I
us
hope
a
you
lot
know
of sex spots.
you're gonna have to post these on Instagram, and you're probably gonna get us flagged for something.
Is this
Okay, well,
Just so you know, Zach is continually. Our chat now is full of just clay sex right now.
question? Is this
They're
one?
all incredibly detailed, though. Really good craftsmanship.
I'm gonna choose my words wisely on this last one. Is this gay sex? Is this what I'm looking at? I don't see a prominent female feature on the person laying down.
Hey, that's a good observation.
I'm gonna go
not
ahead
sure.
and say yes on that
All
one.
right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Gay
I have a question.
statues. All right.
So there's also a really good one. If you look at this one on the top right,
Jesus
there's
Christ.
a guy with a
Lucky
very
guy.
prominent
God, dude,
boner.
you gotta stop.
Lucky
And
guy.
so
You
the
see,
spout
at the beginning of
spout
this
is at the end
podcast,
of the
I asked you
penis.
how many pictures you were going to post on this audio podcast, and you just said a few. This has been 1, 2,
I know, I'm
3,
sorry, I got
4,
enthusiastic.
5, 6, 7, most of which are sex pots.
Okay. Well, let me just describe this. So there's a pot in the shape of a man with a very prestigious member. There's a spout hole. There's a spout hole at the end of the penis, but multiple spout holes at the top of the pot on the head, meaning that if you want to pour water out of it, if you tried to pour it out of the head, it would go everywhere. And instead, you're forced to pour it out of the penis.
I love that. Good for them.
Huh. Interesting. I was going to ask you if these pots, a lot of them don't look like they would be easily poured. Like they, were these just ceremonial a lot of the time, or are they actually used?
Yeah, a lot of the time it seems like the spout is just added to make it a pot, like just so that there's some like formal value to it being pottery in this way, but like no actual use to it.
Gotcha.
And so a lot of these are found in like burials and as grave goods. And so the actual cultural context of them is not really understood. They probably weren't like porn, but probably expressed some sort of
Yeah, I expect
probably
like
like expressed some sort of cultural value that we don't
Yeah,
know.
Beau's fully bricked up right now. You're welcome.
I know.
And the weird thing is, I gotta
Keep
go
that to
eat dinner.
yourself.
I gotta go eat dinner with my friends. I'm gonna be all bricked up. It's gonna be weird.
Yeah, it needs to be like, hey guys, have you
Keep
seen
it
these
to
pots? He's gonna pull up
yourself.
these things,
Because
and
Hey,
his
Beau.
friends are gonna all bricked
I'm
up.
Hey,
gonna
Beau.
go see a baby too. That's the
Hey,
weird
Beau.
part of yes.
Hey, Beau.
Yes.
Some
You didn't have
thoughts
to say
are
that.
inside thoughts. Some thoughts can just stay inside, and you
No, look,
don't
these
have to
pictures have
say
been
them.
inside pictures.
These- yeah, well, this is Zach's fault. Not you. Can't blame me. This is Zach's fault.
I absolutely can, and I will.
I just wanted to surprise Beau with the skeleton
into
sex.
Beau is to
Sex
clay
pottery.
making and pottery and,
You
Yeah.
combine my two favorite
and
things.
intercourse within them.
Pottery and sex, and now it's combined. I don't know what to do
Jesus
with myself
Christ.
right now.
That's the first, when you first met Beau, that's the first thing he told you was, "Hi, my name is Beau, and also, do you have any sex pots?"
Yeah.
No, the first thing
Yeah.
he said was, "Hi, I'm Beau. I'm a liar, not a thief."
That's true. He actually did say that.
And now how the roles have changed.
Yeah,
Big
he's gonna steal all your sex
Oh,
Big
pots.
thief.
Zach,
Yeah.
take us away from the sex pots and also delete all of these.
Okay, so
Send me
I mean,
copies.
I'm not going to delete them because I have to focus. You can delete them if you want. Anyway, the Wakas de Moche. Going back to the Wakas. So what did they do at these big?
They had sex on pots.
These were probably the capital of this like local city state, and this was where they did like the political stuff. They did their political machinations. It seems like probably I might mess this up, so forgive me if I get the pyramids mixed up. But Huaca de la Luna is where they did a lot of the religious stuff, because there's a lot of like leavings of like sacrificial rituals and stuff like that. So it's probably that Huaca del Sol is where like the political stuff did. I think that it's the one that has like the like administrative buildings and stuff. And it was also bigger. So the Moche were a really interesting culture because they had these amazing material complexes and like really phenomenal art. And they made really cool stuff. Like apart from the sex pots, their paintings are really like their non-sexual paintings are also really interesting and really well made. But they also had this very martial focus. There's a lot of imagery is of warfare and weapons and stuff like that, like weapons being used as symbols of power. So they're very complex in this way. It's easy to stereotype them as a very violent culture, and I don't want to do that. But also, I want to talk about weird sacrifices. And so a lot of their art and iconography makes references to a very complicated religion that was probably very sensible and commonplace to them, but it's very hard for us to wrap our heads around because we don't have any of they didn't have like written stuff. What we do know is that they did a lot of rituals, and a lot of these rituals involved some kind of human sacrifice. So the Huacas de Moche were these, like I said, two big pyramids, and they're built of adobe bricks rather than like if you think about like the Egyptian pyramids being made of these big rocks of granite. Whereas these ones and a lot of pyramids in this region were made from
Sex pots.
individual small adobe bricks.
Oh,
Yeah,
Adobe
they
brick.
just adobe
Cock
bricks,
rocks.
basically mud bricks.
I can't believe they
Mud bricks
photoshopped
that
those
you never-
pyramids. That's crazy.
Sex bricks.
Yeah,
That's where the term bricked up comes from. It makes more
All
sense.
bricked up. That's how you build a pyramid.
Yes,
you got to be
these-
all bricked up.
Bricked up straight to God.
these are very, generally speaking, they're very dry most of the time. And so the adobe you don't have to worry about it deteriorating. So a lot of these adobe structures are still around. And Huaca del Sol is the largest adobe structure in the Americas. And it's estimated that it had 130 million adobe bricks
Wow, that's a lot of bricks.
built over a few different phases of construction. So over time, it's apparent that over time, when like a new ruler inherited the polity, they would probably add to it to legitimize their like reign over the people. And so at its height, it was 50 meters tall. So like 180 feet tall and 340 by 160 meters at the base. And then Huaca de la Luna is a little bit smaller. It was only 30 meters tall. So Huaca de la Luna is where they did most of the sacrificing, many different styles of sacrifice, probably for different times of the year or different deities. Dump or chump. Which one of these is not a real style of moche sacrifice? Was it cutting someone's throat and drinking the blood? Is it flaying the bodies and removing all the meat and then articulating the skeletons with rope and sticks and turning them into a group of dancers and musicians? Was it hitting them in the head with a mace and letting black vultures and condors eat the bodies? Or was it raising a jaguar from a cub and then letting it kill you, long-term style?
You said one of these is fake?
One of them is fake.
I don't care about any of that. I just hope that the Jaguar one is real.
Yeah. That's cool. It's like, hey, raise
all
this
I
jaguar
want.
and now let it kill you.
That's like when you plant a tree and you put a rope around it and then eventually you die when it grows up.
That's hardcore.
Yeah,
No,
I want
sadly,
that to
that's
be
the
real.
one that I made up.
Oh,
That's
son
the
of
one
a
I
bitch.
made up.
God damn
sorry.
That you made up, Zach? You made that up?
Well, Ash made it up when I was asking
Hey!
for help. But that's the one that's made up.
Gotcha.
Ash is always tricking us, dude. You're always tricking us.
I know what you
Yeah.
guys like now. I can entice you.
There's a lot of knife imagery, and a lot of the depictions of sacrifice scenes have some figure holding a cup. And there have been cups found that have been tested for blood residue, and there's like, oh yeah, there's blood residue in that cup. So that's kind of hardcore in a pretty gross way. The flaying the bodies and articulating the skeletons with ropes and sticks and turning them into a group of dancers and musicians. That is a common motif in art. It's called the Dance of the Dead. And while it hasn't been like directly found in archaeological context, there have been bones that have been found strung together and like put on poles. So with how often it was depicted and like this, it could be real. It's one of those things where I want it to be real.
I like to think that it's real. I'm deciding right now that it's real.
Yeah. It's like some sort of fucked up Chuck E. Cheese situation.
Yeah, these people are making pots of people boning on them with like skeletons and shit. Yeah, they're 100% real.
You could say, yeah, life as a moche person was probably a lot of things, but it was probably never boring.
They were wild.
Yeah. And then hitting them in the head with a mace was pretty common. It was like the mace was like the main weapon that they used. They were usually made of hardened wood. So it was like a club sort of, but it was carved in a shape that it's not really a club. It's a mace now. And a lot of the bodies that have been found, they found thousands of bones in Huaca de la Luna. And it's pretty clear that they were left out to be eaten by the vultures and condors. And I think that it's probable that was a part of the ritual of it all, was like returning the bodies back to nature. But so all of the victims were healthy males between the ages of 15 and 40 with healed skeletal trauma. So it's pretty likely that they were captured warriors. They weren't just like going around and rounding up virgins or whatever. And so there's a pretty common theory that all of the warfare that is depicted in moche stuff was ritualized, and nobody was like going out there intending to kill everyone else, but instead trying to capture people for these like sacrificial ceremonies.
Is that better or worse? I don't know.
The Aztecs did something similar, which is better documented just because of the Aztecs existing at a time when the Spanish came in and they could write about it. There's no cultural continuity between the Aztecs and the moche, just a similar practice. Less of a downer, there's amazing art on the walls, really great friezes, painted depictions of warriors and priests and like spiders and stuff. over white backgrounds. I was there when they found a new one. It was pretty rad. The moche collapsed between like 550 and 700, not as a sudden thing, but it took a while. Some parts were abandoned before others. The last thing to say is that when the Spanish showed up in the 1600s, they saw that there was a bunch of gold and cool stuff inside the pyramids, and so they diverted a river to blast out the middle of the pyramid so they could take treasures out of it, and that's fucked up.
Damn.
And that's it. That's
Forget dynamite. I'm using the power of water.
where we'll stop because Beau has to leave. And it definitely wasn't distracting that you guys were sending me gifts telling me to stop. I couldn't just stop. I had other things to finish.
Beau needs to leave for dinner in 2 minutes. So go ahead. You know what? That was a fun episode. I had a good time. My favorite thing that I learned was...
Beau, tell us how your favorite thing was the sex pots.
Oh, it was sex pots?
Yeah, it was sex pots.
Sex cactuses. Let's go. Or drug cactuses.
Sex cacti. I liked that the Andes, I didn't really know what they looked like. So it's cool that they're all super straight up and cool stuff. But other than that, sex pots all the way. Let's go.
My favorite thing was the talking to the Oracle ritual, and I wish that I could do it.
You can. Nothing's stopping you yet.
I mean, I have to go there.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I want to do cactus drugs.
I want to do cactus drugs and then talk to God.
Could you imagine doing a
Real bad.
podcast on cactus drugs? Fuck.
That's what we should do when we're all together for your wedding, Andrew. Is we'll all get fucked up on San Pedro Cactus and record a podcast episode.
Oh my god.
Whoa, what's that? Holy, oh my God.
Oh fuck you guys. Oh my god.
So,
all right, Ash, take us out.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Get Dumped On, an Infodump podcast. Please follow us on the socials. Get Dumped On Pod on Instagram. Send us email at getdumpedon at podcast. What? That's not what it is. Get dumped on at gmail.com.
Get dumped on podcast.
Oh gosh, I don't even know our own email. I made the email and I don't know it. Thank you so much for listening.
We're all
really
frantic
happy
because you're rushing us.
that you're here, and we have to go because Beau has to go. And we will pick this up for a part two of Cool Sites in the Andes at a later date. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. I love you.
Oh, good thing I'm not gonna be bricked up for dinner no more. Let's go. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Zach, for talking.
See you
Bye-bye.
later.
Ash and Zach are super smart. They went to college and learned a bunch of stuff. And Beau and Andrew didn't go to college because that's the way life goes sometimes. What happens when you put them together and you try to make them learn? Grab your friends, let's listen together on Get Dumped On an Info Dump Podcast.
Yeah, I was hoping that all the talk of murder and sacrifice would
It's gone.
you.
It's gone. I'm flaccid as shit
Oh,
right now.
yeah.
Good.
Murder really takes the wind down the
Give me
sails.
your
I'm glad it does, though.
drugs.
Say, I have morals. Bye-bye.